Kyogo's away, I think. Jota's coming back, we think as well. Celtic might be playing Dundee tomorrow, we don't know. And all sorts of other things going on. So welcome to this Friday night special. This is Tino, joined here by James and Brydo for this one. Lots going on, lots of rumours continue to fly around. I'll come to you first, James. What's your general take on what's going on just now?
That's football, John. It's just the way it goes, isn't it? I think the Ange times showed us that, I'd say there's no more heroes, only assets. Just don't get too attached to players. Kyogo was a player you couldn't help but get attached to, just the very nature of the man. But you were talking before coming on air, he moved agent to CAA, which is Frank Trimbley, Ange's agent, in August there, just 4 or 5 months ago. So there was a wee concern with that. He was pushing for a move by the sounds of it in the summer, and he's pushed hard here. Rodgers, if anyone watches Rodgers' press conference from earlier on, he's very, very clear on where the agitation came from, and it wasn't Celtic, it was a Kyogo move. And you got to respect that player wants to, try something new. Just do. He's 30s, he's got a few years left in his career, wants to play football in a different environment. So fair enough. But Rodgers to me sounded just a wee bit pissed off, and I wonder if that's the timing, because it leaves us very short for Wednesday, particularly with Dyson out.
Yeah, it does that. Brydo, I'll tell you what I'll do before I come to you. Most of us will have either seen Brendan Rodgers' press conference or seen some of the quotes from it. I'm going to read you the most important quote regarding Kyogo's general situation, and then I'll get your take on it. So he says Kyogo had expressed an interest to leave a number of months back. Obviously, then that expression becomes stronger, and then it gets to the stage where he clearly wants to leave, and we have to then do a deal and look to finalise that for him. He's been an incredible player for the club in the 3.5 years he's been here. And like I said, he's not someone we wanted to lose, but we've got to accept where he's at. And after the work that he's done to give to Celtic and his age and where he's at, we have to accept it. There's obviously issues around the timing, but we've been aware of that. So it's not something that's just been sprung on us. We understand that we're going to lose him, and that we have to replace that quality to keep this team moving forward. It's something that's been going on a little while, and hopefully we come out of the window with a stronger squad. What do you make of it? Is it just modern football? Player power and all that kind of thing? As James says, when players change agents, generally speaking, the writing's on the wall. And is it just a case of the player, maybe, he's given everything and then something Celtic these last 3.5 years and maybe just wants a fresh challenge? Lots of speculation. Is it the international stuff? Is it top 5 league? Is it just a final big move at 30 years of age? What do you think?
Yeah, I think the timing's quite important to try and help us build the picture. The timing being that most fans aren't having like a knee-jerk panic stations. They're kind of accepting of the fact that happens. I think if it was closer in the league, if we were having to win against Villa to get to the next stage, we've done that already, and the league's we're doing really well. So the timing might be all right for him to go now. I think we'd said in earlier shows a few times that we didn't want him to go, but we could see it happening. And if it did, I'd like the club to be prepared. And by the sound of what the manager's saying, that's exactly what it is. They've known for a while. Kyogo's still performed. He's still done okay. And, the team's not suffered because of it. And the dressing room hasn't suffered because of it. So I think Celtic will have had their targets looked at and hopefully set up to get done in the next week or so. The Jota thing, obviously, there must be something in that as well. It's far too coincidental that Jota's coming from the club that he's going to. There's obviously something in that as well. And yeah, I just think it's sad when it happens, when a player like that who's made such an impact. It was the exact same when Jota left, but he's been here a few years. He's had some massive moments for Celtic, ones that we've all enjoyed immensely. And I think most fans will say, do you know what? It is the stage of his career. He is hit the kind of 30 years of age mark. He deserves to try something else, be it for whatever reason he's got. It could just be he's bored. It could be he wants to try a different league before he finishes his career. It could be money. It could be the international. It doesn't matter what it is. He's entitled to say to a club, do you know what? I've gave you plenty. I kind of fancy something different, and then it's up to the club to do that so that there's no real detrimental effect. It'll be tough boots to fill though. I don't think we can. I know he's 30 and all the rest of it, but I think most would say he's been the best since Henrik Larsson, and that's an accolade that I wouldn't say likely, to be fair. So I think it's going to be really tough for us to fill it. And Rodgers did touch on the fact that he thought that Kyogo was perfect for how he played, which I didn't think that much, but he said that he was happy that he was the guy leading the line for him. So, yeah, I think it's just a situation in modern day football that, in fact, it's not even modern day football, it's been happening for years, let's be honest. It's even way before our time watching football. People come and go. But Celtic have done, over the years, their business well. This one's just a bit, that central figure at that kind of top of the park, it's hard to get right. And they've got to pick very wisely the replacement for him, because it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, it's those wee size 5.5 boots won't fill himself, Brydo, so we'll need to see what the plan is there. Just to let everyone know, usually when we do these live shows, pre and post match, certainly the comments are only open to YouTube channel members, so you need to be subscribed to the channel to do so. For this one, because it's a bit of a special and a bit of a one-off, we've opened out the comments to anybody that wants to throw anything at us in terms of questions, comments, anything else in between. So feel free, rumours, whatever, throw your comments into the comment section. We'll do our very best to get through as many of them as we can. And an interesting one from Fred Williams to get us going. Fred says he's old enough to have seen Paul McStay and Henrik Larsson leave us. Trust me, it will all be fine with Kyogo. That's all well and good, Fred, but I had to deal with Mikey Johnson leaving after banging the drum for about 3 years for the fella. So I feel the pain, but it's the way it goes, James. You've said it in quite cold terms. No heroes, just assets. And I don't know, it's part of the modern game. I've seen lots of chat from some folks in the last couple of nights online saying that for some of the kids nowadays, Kyogo is or now was their Henrik Larsson. And that's how football goes. You need to have your heroes, and we're all grown men, I think. But you still need to have your guys that, your go-to, the guys that you really enjoy watching. And there's no doubt Kyogo's brought so much joy to Celtic in recent times. Just a final thing, I seen a tweet, I think it's from a guy called Ken Ross. Ken is a tour guide in at Celtic Park, very nice guy. And he said there's a thing about Kyogo in the number 8. 8's deemed a lucky number in Japan. You know that, James, you're a cultured man. Kyogo wore number 8. He wore number 8. He won 8 trophies for Celtic, although it'll be 9 when he gets his league medal at the end of the season. He scored 8 goals against Rangers and something else. I should really know that, but I'll come back to it. But 8's synonymous with him. He's a guy that's brought so much joy and so much success to Celtic, and there'll be nothing but best wishes and fond memories for him.
Absolutely. You have to just kind of allow yourself to, sounds a bit kind of fluffy, but to allow yourself to fall in love with characters like that. Just the guy who plays with a smile on his face, played, the kind of football that we really needed under Ange. Kyogo was such a big part of that. Without him, we don't get the goals, we don't get that league, we don't get the title straight back off Rangers after the nonsense it was the COVID season. So, and he played through, busted shoulders, various injuries. He told Ange he was going to play in the League Cup final no matter what to get Ange and Celtic their first silverware of that season. So he had a real attitude on him, in terms of driven to success. And that, I suppose, goes, the rough of that smooth is that he wants to go and have success elsewhere. So he goes with best wishes. My only real attention now is on what Paul Tisdale's going to do. And at present, I'm hearing about Jota, KT, Fiskgarden. These are guys we've all known for years and years. So I'm not overly impressed with the new director of football. Where's the names we don't know? Where is the Kyogo and the Hatate and the Maida, We need to be hearing those kind of names.
Yeah, but Celtic have done a good job in recent times of just telling you the names when they're announcing the signing. And I like that. So, Fiskgarden's doing the rounds and has been for about 2 years. There's various other guys that are linked. But actually, I just want to say pick up the paper and see a name. You just want to log on one morning and see that Celtic have signed wherever he may be from, so long as he's of the calibre and the required skill set to go and be a front man for Celtic. Some interesting stuff going on in the comments. Lots of chat. Martin Linton's very upset. Martin says, "Don't believe the bullshit Rodgers is telling us. He's a yes man now." I'm not sure what that's particularly based on. I watched his press conference earlier on. What I do see as a a Rodgers, a Board and a Paul Tisdale who seem to be on the same page. Rodgers was saying, listen, we've been made aware of this for some time. What's the alternative, Martin? Do you keep an unhappy player and try and get the best out of a guy that doesn't want to be here? Or do you take 10 million for a guy who has given you his peak years with the very best of Kyogo, and he's carrying that shoulder injury, and that's a concern as well. I think to get 10 million for a guy who turned 30 just a few days ago makes perfect sense, and I'm not sure how that makes the manager a yes man. Martin follows up by saying it's terrible, terrible news that this guy is gone. It's disappointing news because he was an absolute hero for Celtic, but I think I wanted him to stay till summer, but I think it might well be more or less the right timing for all concerned. Getting a bit of snash in the chat about my love for Yang. There's Holmesy. What about when Yang leaves? Andy H. I hope Andy's been genuine. At least Yang is still here. No sarcasm allowed, Andy. Let me see various other bits and bobs. Paul Brady. Kyogo gone and Yang still here. Just criminal. Tino. These guys clearly don't know ball, Brydo. They can't spot a baller when he's right in front of their eyes. But what do you make of it? There's various comments coming and going, and there's no doubt some fans will be okay with the Kyogo news and some will be devastated.
Yeah, I think every Celtic fan will be upset in the fact that he wants to leave. But we've got to be realistic. All good things come to an end at some point. And it's about the preparation and the reaction to it. And if we're prepared, then the reaction to it won't be panicking and making the wrong signing. So football clubs bring players in when they don't like the player, and a player wants to move from football club to football club if they feel it's not the right place for them. It's just the way it is. I came to terms with it pretty quickly because we kind of thought it was going to happen in the summer. The way the season's going and the timing of it, with the qualification, like I said earlier, and where we are in other competitions, if that helps, get Jota in the door, because I think the wing position was really weak, and we sign another striker, and then you've got Maeda, Kuhn, Jota. If you get Tierney over the line, I think they're looking at the youngs. Was it Barry or something from Aston Villa? So you've got lots of rumours going around. Or that Kvitz Garden stuff that's been going around for about 2 years. We obviously know the manager likes him because we placed a bid for him, and it got knocked back, didn't it? So we know that the manager was strong enough in his opinion to bid for him. So that's why that rumour's not gone away. But we've just got to trust that, the same people that got like Kyogo in the door, or Hatate, or Maeda, or all the players, or Jota first time round, we've got to trust the process and that they know what they're doing, and they'll get players in that, like the manager says, makes us a far stronger squad than it was at the start of the window. And I think if Kieran Tierney, Jota, somebody else, in the kind of striker position, come in, and we lose Kyogo, Philip Palmer go, whatever, then we will be in a stronger position if, and it's a big if, this is where the question mark is, and this is where the kind of anxiety kicks in, if they get the right person, because Kyogo was so good. And that's the difficult part. And that's, nobody's got a magic ball to look into and say, oh, that's definitely going to happen. But do your due diligence, and hopefully we get the best result for the club to continue to move forward. And I think, Brendan Rodgers can now pick the very man that he wants, even although he did say Kyogo was perfect for him. So,
I mean, what you've got is a situation where you take the 10 million for Kyogo, you could reinvest that in its entirety on a player at maybe 22, 23 that's maybe not quite the finished article that Kyogo is or was, but has the potential to maybe get even higher than Kyogo, James. That's the exciting part. And I think you've got to allow the scouting team to do their work. We can be critical, just now on the 24th of January, but there's another week and a bit to go in terms of the window. And I think, like all windows, we all get excited, myself particularly, but you can only judge the window once it fully closes and you see exactly what you've got in the building. And there is a situation where you've got KT back in the building, elite footballer KT, Jota with everything that he brings, and we'll go into detail a bit more on Jota a wee while down the track here, and potentially a top young striker from wherever, might be Europe, might be further across the globe. So there's a potential for Celtic to, cliched line here, come out the window far stronger than we went into it.
Yeah, but there's also, every Celtic fan's lived anxiety. There's probably stronger potential to do absolutely nothing. We had that period under Ange, maybe his first two and a half windows, where we were doing business differently. Then that changed. And then I think Rodgers wrestled that back. We started doing things correctly again. Kind of being a little facetious there, I think they will have their targets lined up. I don't think the timing was they're choosing, which is interesting. There's a story to be told there as to why now. Why not even Thursday morning? And why now before, say you're going to bid on a Chris Garden or a whoever, you're in a materially weaker negotiating position when you've got a gap in your number 9 position. They know we need a striker. So I think there's a lot there. But I do think they'll get the job done. I think Celtic's operation, even before Tisdale coming in, just with Rodgers in charge of that side of things, it's far more professional than it was in recent times and in years past as well. So I think we will be sitting on the 3rd of February, I think it is, with smiles on our faces. But I'd rather that this business was done in the next 2-3 days rather than the next 13, 14.
Yeah, all fair stuff there. Good comment from Nikaritsu, who says, do we think fans are more upset over Kyogo leaving mid-season or the fact that we didn't sign a striker before he left? And that's your point, James. There is a risk, we know in football. I'll go back to an interview I done earlier in the year with Jock Brown, a really interesting guy who was obviously at the front end of Celtic's negotiating when it came to transfers under Fergus McCann at the time. And he says the deal is never done till it's done. So, I mean, Jota, seems to be 99.9% over the line. There's always a niggle. There's always a chance that a club swoops in at the last minute and offers big money or whatever, or the club changes their mind, or Ren get a winger injured, in a game or in training, whatever it might be. So you can never be too sure. And Brydo, would that be your concern that, well, twofold, that we're right now, we've only got one recognised number 9 in the building in the shape of Adamida. Johnny Kenny is very much a young apprentice who might well come good, but he's not fully ready to go, I would argue, at this moment in time. And on the bargaining position, are you maybe a bit weaker when you sit down to negotiate and they say, we know you've not got a 9, so 7 million is now 10 million, things like that.
Yeah, there may be a bit of that, but there's all that negotiation, what's called the negotiating committee or gamesmanship, or every club will try to negotiate the lowest price for the ones they bring in and the highest for the ones that they sell. And fans, we kind of want our cake and eat it. We want to demand high fees for players and then we moan about it when we might overspend on the ones that we get. It's just sometimes part of the game in order to get the player that the manager or the club want. On the kind of not signing a striker before Kyogo left, I mean, at that time, certainly domestically anyway, we're more than happy. Ida is more than capable. He's not shown it completely this season, but he's done it in the past, last year, and he's definitely got talent. He just maybe needs a run of games. Maeda can play that position too. Johnny Kenny, I keep seeing his name. Johnny Kenny isn't going to be a player for Celtic, I don't think at all. I think Celtic, if we're to have ambitions to be where we want to go, I don't think he's going to play a part. I mean, we could be nice about it and think he's going to, but I just don't think. I know he done well for Charlotte Rovers, but it's just not going to. That's not going to be what gets Celtic further progression, in my opinion. So he'll get loaned out to somebody probably. I can see that. I don't think he'll feature for Celtic much at all. He's full of endeavour when he came on and stuff in the game against is it Dundee, wasn't it? But
Ross County.
Ross County, sorry. Aye. So yeah, I mean, does he deserve a chance? Well, I'm not too sure he does deserve a chance. If you're good enough, you'll get a chance. But as far as the not signing a striker before Kyogo left, the risk would then be you sign a striker and you don't sell Kyogo, and then you've then got these players that you've spent the money on. So I think the club will be fairly confident they can get their player in. I don't think we're going to be left without one. That's not going to happen. So I don't really think it is a crazy risk, in my opinion, that they've let him go. And like I said earlier in the show, I genuinely think there's got to be something in the fact that it's too coincidental that Jota's coming the other way. So there must be something in that as well. So perhaps we're not privy to how these things work, but I don't think they're as straightforward as we think as fans, that like a club find him and then it's like, right, Kyogo's our man. I think sometimes his agent will then go and look and speak to the club and go, well, is there any clubs that the club might help them find somebody else as well. So that could be then, well, look, we're looking to get Jota back. We might be able to do something with rent. Are you interested in that? And then all of a sudden, oh yeah, maybe I am, because it's just too coincidental for me. So there's got to be something in that. So there'll be plans in place, and because it's now the time that the club think it's right, then I think they'll do just fine, and I think we'll all leave the window far better for it, and I don't think there'll be any kind of crazy risk as such. And that's not denying that we haven't done that in the past. Like,
No.
that's definitely, we've seen it all with our own eyes, and we've all screamed at Sky Sports News at midnight on transfer deadline days and went, what on earth is going on over the past. So that's not to say it can't happen, but I just think we're in a far better, stronger place now than we were before. And I think we're happy to spend the money if the player's right.
Yeah, we seem to be in a stronger position, but to James's point, the ghosts of transfer window pasts are hovering around us at all times, and you just never know. James, I'll come in a second, just in terms of Celtic's current position, in terms of strikers, Adam Idah, Johnny Kenny, Maeda, the makeshift number 9, he can play there, but Brendan Rodgers was asked pointedly, actually, about that, would you be intending to bring Dice Maeda? And he went, it's an option, but I want another striker, quote unquote, he wants another striker, so that's firm. And in terms of just to finalising Kyogo, we'll move on from the Kyogo chat. But when you change agents only get paid when players move. Ultimately, they can sign new deals and they'll get a wee bit of that. But when players move, that's when the big bucks start flying around. So the agent comes in, signs up Kyogo. First thing in his mind is, where can I get this guy in January or otherwise? And that's why rumours of the Atlanta and the MLS move comes around, because they'll have inquired through his agent, is it possible? He'll have said, yeah, it might be. And things start to fly around, and then you get rumours ramping up and different things going on. The chat is that the player himself wasn't keen on the move to the MLS. We've heard all this stuff about top 5 leagues, and that might help his international ambitions and whatever. But it's clear at that point, strong as those rumours were, that he was open to a move of some sorts, or it certainly seemed that way. You never know for sure, do you? But it seemed he was open to a move of some sorts. Anyway, James, in terms of the striking berths at the moment, so as I say, Adam Idah and Johnny Kenny are kind of your only 2 shows in town. James Pearson describes him as the Irish Lewandowski and Idah, so I presume Johnny Kenny is the Irish Lewandowski. And San Fran says, if you're banging in goals in the Conference League, you're due minutes against Dundee. So it kind of goes against your own points, Brydo. But James, I'll come to you for your take on it. We've not seen a lot of Johnny Kenny. Most of us have got the YouTube clips and the Twitter clips about him scoring goals in the Conference League, and good goals at that. Looks pacey, looks sharp. There are levels to this game, to use that quote. Do you think, what's your gut feeling? We don't have a whole catalogue to look upon, but what's your gut feeling? Can he make it at Celtic?
Well, first things first, Brydo knows his football, and he knows how to pick a player, but I'm going to go against him here. I think Kenny's got something. I think he's got something that can be coached into something better. He shows enough instinct and touch and drive, and knows what the goal is, that a good coaching team around him can make him a better player. And where that takes him to, who knows? He's certainly not close to first choice striker at Celtic or anywhere near at the moment. But we do need that third striker on the bench. Well, we always will. It's going to be Vata, but we don't have that option. So we need not just Kenny, but we need Kenny at his absolute best. So for me, he deserves his chance. As for minutes against Dundee, if the game goes ahead, I don't know, because he won't be in the Champions League squad for Wednesday night. So I want my starting striker on Wednesday to be starting against Dundee. So that again is why the timing really blows my mind a wee bit. You've already lost Maeda with that stupid red card. You've now lost Kyogo, and you're going to have probably Yang on the wing, Idah up front, but then you don't have the reserves of Yang and Idah on the bench to bring on. So there's work to be done, boys, a lot of work to be done.
Brydo, you've got something to say?
Yeah, it's just like, so the third striker thing's obviously, I mean, it's obviously got an importance, because you really need 3, and we've not really had that. And Johnny Kenny has been training with Celtic. He's had 2 managers now. So although he's playing for Shamrock Rovers and all the rest of it, I'm just not in the Conference League. The Conference League is nowhere near the Champions League. We all know that. And I get that you need an opportunity. But what I would say, because I've seen San Fran's comments and I've seen a few other ones and stuff, and obviously James is thinking he's a chance. for me, if they're going to have a third proper out-and-out striker, then it's got to be somebody like the boy Cummings or something, for example. I don't know who's better or who's worse out the two. But if you're talking about giving opportunities, then I think I would rather see it coming from the youth academy. But now that you've got Jota coming in the door, the drop-off level from the wing position, i.e. Maida not there and Jota being there, then that would allow Maida to play through the middle almost like another striker as well. So you do have more options because we've strengthened or look like we're going to strengthen in the winger position in Jota. So if Jota's playing, that means Maida can be an option through the middle, of which he's done well for his country and for us when he's done that. So I just don't see where Johnny Kenny... I just think if we've got ambitions, Johnny Kenny's not anywhere really near my Celtic team. And it might sound unfair, but I'm just being realistic. I don't think he's ever going to do anything at Celtic. And if that's the case, what's the point? I don't mean to be crude about it, but like, what is the point? I mean, he's not going to do it. I'm sure he's a nice lad and all that, but like, maybe good to go. Maybe. Not doing anything else today, but
regardless, James, you make a good point about the Champions League stuff and he's not in the squad, but it might be a case of needs must tomorrow. It might be Johnny Kenny and Daniel Cummins back in the squad tomorrow, as they both were against Ross County, because you need to have recognised frontmen on the bench. Maeda will be in the squad and he's not available on Wednesday either, so sometimes you just need to come and go with it. I should have finished off the Kyogo chat with a good comment from Son of Scotland, and he says that wee man was the spark that reignited the club and the fans after the COVID disaster. He will be a big miss, but I'm sure we're all grateful for what he gave us, and he goes with our best wishes. And that's spot on. That's exactly the sentiment which I think most people feel. There's a comment from Michael McDonald who says the player who, in my opinion, is closest to Kyogo is at Celtic Park. Tell all, Michael. Don't keep these things to yourself. So let's see who that might be. It'll be interesting. And last comment for now, it's from Paul Boyle. Paul says, I remember when my hero Kenny Dalglish left Celtic, I've still got the ball and a top he signed. And I'm sure what he's saying there, James, is he's going to donate that to the Celtic Exchange for us to put up in the studio or similar. So just get in touch, Paul, and we'll get that arranged. James, the other big headline out with Kyogo, of course, is Jota's return. There was a lot of tax experts in the last number of weeks saying that it can't actually happen because he made money in Saudi, and when you come back to the UK after 12 months, you can only do this or you'll get taxed and blah, blah, blah. Turns out that's bullshit, and you can come back if you want to, and it seems that he does want to. I think you're a bit more reserved than... Well, I don't know what Brydo is. I'll tell you, I'm excited. I think I've described Jota as a generational talent at Celtic. I thought he was just phenomenal to watch, scored some big goals. Who'll forget that assist for Kyogo as well? Just, Kyogo's on the way out, but that goal they created against Ferencvaros, I think it was exceptional. And football is the entertainment business. That's what it is, and you want to be entertained, and Jota entertains. But you think there's maybe a gap in his skill set, James?
Yeah, I mean, he's a sublime talent. I'm more than happy to say that. And he's a player I love to watch playing football. I don't think he's necessarily the hardest worker in the world, and I don't know if that really works in Brendan Rodgers' setup. He's also a right winger. He prefers to play in the right very strongly, and we've got sublime talent already there in Nicholas Kuhn. What I would say is that he does have that wee mercurial spark of genius that we're maybe missing a wee bit of now. We don't really have a Rogic type. Even O'Reilly could come up with those wee things that were so unexpected. I think he'll actually play very well with Arne Engels being a intelligent footballer. So it's something that can work, but I think there's a lot of work to be done to make it work. I think Jota needs to be open to being coached into being a better player. And I think he's found that, he's gone on a wee journey. He's made himself financially secure for the rest of his life. He's gone to Rennes, and then the manager's changed. The new manager doesn't play with Jota's type of player. So, he's certainly found the grass is always greener, but he's also found that he needs a bit more breadth in his own talent base. And I think Rodgers is the type of coach that can give him that. So, as long as Jota is prepared to come in, do the work, play the opposite side for Nicholas Kuhn, I'll let it go.
Very magnanimous of you. It's actually pronounced Jota, as per Brendan Rodgers, if you remember correctly. Brydo, what's your thoughts? Are you excited at what looks to be the imminent return of Jota?
Oh, all over it. I think he's just... not just the signing of Jota, but or Jota or Hoto or whatever Brendan's want to come out and say now. I think I just think he's got real quality, and we actually got him at a time in his career where he should have still been developing. So James makes some valid points, obviously, and I think Rodgers, again, he alluded to it in the chat that was one player that he was really excited to work with, and then he was away before he actually, well, pretty much the deal was done as Rodgers got in the door. So I think that the fact that the manager's excited to work with players like that I think he'll be excellent at coaching a player like Jota to work and get the best out of him for not only him but for the team. But just everything, and we know he left, and we know why, and I don't think anybody had any arguments because we've got £25 million, or break it down after all, get the tax experts in. But we got £25 million, and for a player who'd been there a wee while, and then he left, but he got the club, he proper charisma. He tried things. I mean, you can never get over that dinking the ball in the Celtic Rangers game or the pass for Kyogo. I see some of the boys talking about that now. I'm sure when he dinked it over the goalie, the boy Linton would probably have a problem that he never done it with his left foot instead of his right foot because he seems to have a right. I think there's maybe a safety check or something, Martin, to make sure he's okay. But I just think he's just the quality is just there. And if you add somebody like Tierney, we know he might not be fit all the time, but let's say you've got a lineup in a Champions League game and you've got Kieran Tierney's your left back, Jota's your left winger. But by the way, that might be Maida. But it's just if something has to change or it's not working for Maida, the game doesn't suit. Jota's a very different type of player on that side. You've got Kuhn on the other side. It's just talent. There's talent all over. And then who knows what striker will sign. Ida might benefit from somebody different as well. So, yeah, I think it's an exciting time. And I think this is the time where the manager's really getting his proper, the proper players that he's really looking for and adding to the ones he's brought in already to get a proper Brendan Rodgers team.
James, in terms of that proper Brendan Rodgers team, there's a few comments and it kind of leans back to what you're saying. Does Jota work as hard as a Brendan Rodgers forward does in this current Celtic side? You can't deny and doubt Maida's effort and work rate. Same as Kyogo. Kyogo was a grafter up front. Nicholas Kuhn's added all that to his game. Jota's not a luxury player. That's not the way he worded it, but he's certainly a flair player and has the best of Jota's when he's on the ball, taking players on and getting to the byline and doing all those kind of things. You wouldn't say his best asset would be tracking back and working hard and getting back in shape and blocking tackles and those kind of things. But it's a requirement. It's part of the Brendan Rodgers blueprint, if you like, or certainly the current blueprint at Celtic. But in terms of a Brendan Rodgers team, if you've got a Kieran Tierney behind a Jota on the left-hand side, that's exciting. And you've got to argue that it's Champions League calibre, isn't it?
I think that's a good point. Maida needs to work so hard because he doesn't have an elite class left back behind him. No harm to Greg Taylor. He's not Kieran Tierney. That's just as simple as that. So is there so much work required from Jota if he's got Tierney to do his job, do his own left back job? I don't particularly like it. Whether he's Tierney or Taylor or whoever's behind him, I think the left winger at Celtic should be working as hard as Daizen Maida. Everyone should be working as hard as Daizen Maida. And it's funny, I've mentioned Kuhn, I'm focusing on Kuhn there, but we're saying Jota just sails in and Daizen gets on the bench. It would make more sense to me if Jota's the guy on the bench, but then you're going to spend £8 million for a bench player. I mean, I suppose we do with Engels, but we're going to have a very pricey bench before we know it. But then you do have Jota to come off the bench and unlock defences that maybe Kuhn and Maida weren't kind of getting through. I suppose Rodgers will just look at it and say, that improves my options in the squad. It's not Palma and Yang, it's Kuhn, it's Jota, and it's Maida that I'm picking from. So it certainly raises the bar in that regard, but it's also a headache in terms of picking a first 11.
It is the cliched headache that every manager wants, so isn't it? It's no longer just about the 11 and hasn't been for a long time in the modern game. Brydo, sometimes it can be just important the team that you finish a game with as the one you start with. Jota's not a bench player. He's not a guy that's going to be happy sitting on the bench, but that's the challenge. He'll arrive, but he'll be told that you need to work just as hard, if not harder, than everyone else who's already established. And Maida and Kuhn are the established wingers at this moment in time. And that'll be the challenge. I don't know where Jota's at right now. I've caught very little footage of him in the last 18 months. There was the odd goal here and there. He was very in and out of things in Saudi. That wasn't a good move from football-wise. Great move, bank balance-wise, but not so much on the park. And then it wasn't really happening at Rennes either for him. He was very in and out of favour with the new manager that took over. So, Brydo, it depends what Jota turns up. He might not be good to go, from the start. It might take a number of weeks. I've heard people talking about mini pre-seasons and things like that. But once he gets up to speed, I can't understand any doubts over his quality because we've seen it. And I take on the same argument that when I'm talking about Adam Ida, the body of evidence is there. We've seen Adam Ida dominate and terrorise defences and win games of football single-handedly for Celtic. So it's not like, I don't know if this guy's got it. He's got it. We've seen it with Ida. We've seen it with Jota. Jota's showreel, which is doing the rounds on Twitter just now, or several showreels, it's a joy to watch. Some of his moments for Celtic have been phenomenal. Iconic Celtic moments. So he's got it in the locker. It's just a case of getting him back up to speed, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's again part of the game. The Saudi thing was a kind of more political thing, wasn't it, in regarding so many European players or whatever could play, and then that didn't really work out, and then they signed somebody else. So there's a lot of saga around that. So he didn't really get a chance. So I don't think it was anything to do with his ability. That's probably then dented his confidence, dented his sharpness, and he's then went to Rennes, and I think they changed manager and that other manager. So sometimes in football, the luck, there is some bad luck. Good luck for his bank balance. He's not unlucky with that, but sometimes it's just what happens. And listen, we've had players over the years, Chris Sutton being one, John Hartson, like players who were maybe then under fire at the clubs they were at. They come to Celtic and they leave absolute legends. So it's what they do at our club that obviously we're concerned about, and we're in the fortunate position that we have seen them doing that, and we have seen Ida doing what he done last season. So it maybe buys him a bit of time. As far as the club and see people, Maida won't go on the bench and Jota's got to wait on the bench. It's not really like that. There's got to be a fluidity to it and allow the manager to chop and change and have options. And if Celtic are going to be anywhere near the level that we all aspire them and want them to be, and that is in the Champions League every year, competing at a level every year and progressing every year, then having a player that somebody spent £25 million on at left back, having a player that somebody spent £25 million on as an option in your left wing position, alongside guys like Kuhn, who are probably valued more than 25 million, guys like Maida, who are almost priceless, a £9 million striker and Ida, okay, we probably overpaid, so maybe that's a bit skewed, but then a new guy coming in. I said when O'Reilly got sold and we brought in Engels for 11, it would have been amazing, and where we should be as a club at some point in time would be that we bring Engels in and still have, a Matt O'Reilly there, 20, 25, 30 million pound players. That to me is how we build a squad of that quality. So we can't be sensitive and be like, oh, well, Maida might be on the bench. Yeah, Maida doesn't do it every single game for the full 90 minutes. And we ask a lot of them. And so I just think that it doesn't only just give us more options, it gives us real quality options, and it allows us as a team to change things whenever we want in the 90 minutes, and allows the manager to say, well, do you know what? There's not much space in behind. It doesn't really suit Dyson as much as it did in the other games. I'm going to play Jota because he is a player that can unlock those defences that sit with a low block and, 11 men behind the ball. So for a club to progress the way we all want them to, then that's for our bracket. That's the quality of players I think that we need, and we should be really excited about guys like Tierney and Jota, and and if we're spending 8, 9, 10 million pound on other players, we should be excited because it's something we've not really done before.
And I like the excitement and the options that the manager will have. So we come up against the low block a lot domestically, and now and then you'll potentially get it in Europe. And there's different challenges at different times when you're a Celtic player. But it's that kind of thing where if we can't get behind them with Maida's pace, can you get round them with Jota's trickery, or inside them with what Nicholas Kuhn offers, or power down the byline on the overlap that Kieran Tierney offers? All of a sudden there's going to be a wealth of options and different ways to unpick the defences that sometimes can be stubborn in Scotland. Jonathan makes a good comment. Jonathan Brown, he says he can't wait for the Kuhn-Jota debate. Who is better? to be played out in live action. And that's exactly it. You know, we can have the debate here, which is fun and games. Let's watch it and let's enjoy it. What a buzz. There's Kuhn coming off. Oh, brilliant. But Jota's about to come on. That's just got to be enjoyable. Comment from Bash that we all know, Barry Sweeten. Barry's asking, could Jota also play in the 10? He thinks he could, and I think he could. We've talked about Celtic at times. If it's not happened at times this season on the wings, we don't have a lot going through the middle in terms of creativity. Maybe Jota gives you an alternative in there. And we spoke about the fact that maybe Louis Palmer can do that. Maybe, but Louis Palmer to Jota is a big jump in quality. And I think there's maybe a chance at times to try Jota in that role if it comes to it. A couple of other wee bits and bobs. Where are we? Celt88 says, Jota's got it all. Kuhn's success comes from his pace. A large element comes from his pace, but he's also a brilliant footballer. He's got great feet. He's got 16 goals. He's got numerous assists. He will be our player of the year this season, and rightly so. I think Kuhn's a superstar, and Celtic's next big challenge is holding on to him for a longer period of time. On a Permo, he says, absolutely, Jota could do anything. Kuhn cuts in, that's all Kuhn has. That's mental. I can't get on board with that. I can't understand anyone watching Kuhn this season and not raving about him. But I suppose that's what makes it interesting. So that's the opinions game that we're all in, and that's the way this world goes at times. James, amongst all the noise, and it's noisy, there's maybe a game tomorrow to be played out at Celtic Park. It depends on how things go. There's been a bit of damage to the stadium. They're going to assess it and make a call. I think in the morning there's been an official statement. There's been a statement. So we'll see how that goes. If the game goes ahead or not, though, how do you think, we've not really covered the aftermath of Wednesday night because it's all been about Kyogo and Jota. How do you think the players feel about themselves? There's obviously a huge boost that comes with what they achieved during the week.
Yeah, and they'll need to absorb the Kyogo news if that all gets confirmed as well. But that with this, it's kind of, I think you said it in the tweet announcement for this show, we've not had a chance to revel in achieving knockout Champions League football for the first time in 12 years. We just want to sail into this weekend on a high, play that game, get a win, not an easy game, go down to Birmingham on Wednesday night and then try and turn over Aston Villa to give yourself a sniff of qualifying automatically. And then the Kyogo news, the Jota news, that just upsets everything. But from the players' point of view, they've got to maintain that buzz from Wednesday night. There'll have been some dressing room to be in after the game. And I think Callum McGregor and James Forrest will be around as well. They'll be good at just letting the players enjoy that and take it in, what you've achieved here, and then take that joy and that confidence into the game tomorrow. I think we'll if the game goes ahead, we'll play with a strong squad, maybe with some early rotation if we can get a couple of early goals. But Tony Dock will be well up for it, as we saw just a couple of weeks ago, or maybe not even that. So yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game. But it's a bit of a dress rehearsal for Wednesday, much like last weekend was.
Yeah, very much so. Brydo, what do you think of the impact from a player's point of view that Kyogo is a big personality, he's a quirky personality, but he's been a huge part of that Celtic dressing room for the last 3.5 years. You might have seen amongst all the footage doing the rounds, Callum McGregor being interviewed at Ibrox on one of the many games where Kyogo's put them to the sword. And it cuts to McGregor and he's like, what do you say about this guy? Like he was kind of gobsmacked. He's like, he's incredible. I've never seen anything like it. He was blown away. He could barely answer the question. Just such was his admiration for what Kyogo brings, and that's hard to replace. He's a maverick player. He's a unique striker. Kyogo. He's been amazing for Celtic, and there's no doubt that can take a bit of time to go over. But as I say, one hero's leaving, and it looks like one hero's plugging the gap. So yes, you'll miss the personality of Kyogo. There's a bona fide superstar coming back in, so that will certainly soften the blow for the players at Lennoxtown.
Yeah, it's the unlike if we'd play for Celtic for nothing, like we wouldn't want any money. These guys, it's their job, it's their career, and they've got a teammate who obviously helped them win trophies. He's been there for a wee while, but I think most of them will understand the game. They've all moved and transferred themselves. And over the past, it's just I think they'll get used to that type of thing happening, especially every transfer window, and it won't be a secret for them either. They'll have known, or certainly the senior players will have known since we'll say August or whatever, since he was kind of said that he wanted to leave, that'll be a, Callum McGregor would have got told that, keep an eye on him or whatever, and all the rest of it. So I don't think it'll be a problem at all. And it certainly shouldn't affect anybody else's game, really. The only person's game it should affect should be a positive, and that should be Adam Idah, in that he's got a real opportunity. He had his big moment. I mean, I do cringe when he claims that goal on Wednesday. I mean, I spoke up for him a lot, but no, he done really well, and he should score the first effort. But I'm not going to be negative about it. If he didn't do what he done, we wouldn't have scored and we wouldn't have got the win, maybe. And he's done that a few times in his career at Celtic, relatively short career at Celtic. He's had big moments, so this is a chance for him to really grab that position before we bring somebody else in. He's got to take it as a young guy. He's 23, I think. This is his moment to grab the jersey and say, no, wait a minute. Yeah, you might sign somebody new, but I want him to do what I've had to do and play second fiddle to somebody else for a while. And if he grabs it and scores the goals and offers more to the game, which I think he's capable of, but he needs to show it, if he can do that, then by all means, Celtic will have an even better player in him alongside a new guy coming in. And so all these kind of mental aspects of the game, it's got to be spun to be a positive and for the likes of him. And as a collective, as a group, I think football players get used to it. I don't think there's a crazy amount of sentiment when players are, I don't think it was like the old days when they used to all drink together and go out together. I think it's just very professional, and 9 to 5, get the job done and back to your families and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, it's just part of the game. It's a shock if that's if not too dramatic a word to fans, because you get so attached to these players and they move on. But as players, your dressing room, it's a revolving door, generally speaking, James. You want to be as settled as you can, but players come and go, and that's part of the game. And I'll come in a wee second just on a question regarding that. A couple more comments. Pat McLaughlin says, a mini rebuild in January. I like it. It's so unlike us. George Lappin, good friend of the show, just at Miami airport on the way home. Hopefully no such storms as we are seeing here. Have I missed much? Great to see us get through, and inevitable changes unfolding. It will be for the better, in George's opinion. Let's see how it goes. Gary Melrose, not sure how this is, says that the Storm has caused $3 million worth of improvements over at Ibrox. It remains to be seen. And let me see, there was a comment I wanted you to see, Brydo.
Brydo on loan, was that one?
I think it was.
Brydo on loan.
San Fran Celtic wants to put you out on loan. There it is.
You can send me to Spain on loan, mate. No problem. Just find a Spanish club that's got a golf course next to it. Nice. And I'll pull my hamstring every week.
James, the question I was going to ask was, does Kyogo's exit and the nature of it, player power, as I mentioned, it's just part of the game. Does it set the domino rally effect in operation? Will a few guys go, do you know what? Maybe I fancy a change? Because what we have had is a core of guys who have been here from Ange's first season. It's Carter Vickers, he's very much part of that. Alistair Johnson came in not straight away, but not long after. It's Rio Hatate, it's Dyson Maeda, it's guys that have been so important to Celtic, and as recently as Wednesday night played a hugely important part for Celtic. Do you think some of them it might turn in and go, maybe it's time to move on and try new challenges, whatever that looks like? Some will fancy a move into Europe, some will fancy better weather, some might go for the big payday, whether it's a Saudi move or an MLS or whatever. What do you think? Do you think there'll be any ramifications of that nature?
Yeah, I mean, every player that signs for Celtic in this era, and we need to be ready for this as well, it's generally going to be a 2 to 3 year window. If it's more than that, it's because they weren't good enough to get the move. If they're as good as we want them to be and challenge in the Champions League, then they'll be good enough to be getting offers elsewhere. So it's a 2 to 3 year window. And players outside of that, getting into 3 and 4 and 5 years, there's other reasons for their staying. Carter Vickers, I believe, wouldn't necessarily pass a fitness test after his operations and stuff like that. So that's why he's stayed a wee bit longer. And he's an outstanding talent. We're delighted to have him. But I don't know if we're going to have this, long-standing core that teams have had of old. We're always going to be ready, have to be ready for this 2 3 year window cycle. Is Dyson looking for a move that solidifies his last few years in the Japanese squad? Things like that start to become a factor. But it's something I'm perfectly relaxed about, as long as my scouting operation is operating at top capacity.
And that's the question. As I say, we'll know for sure in whatever, a week and a bit's time. how effective Paul Tidsdale has been in his new role at head of recruitment. This is his first real challenge, isn't it? But the work of a recruitment person at Celtic, Brydo, doesn't just kickstart on 1st of January and end at the end of that month. There's a whole lot that goes into making a transfer happen, and it's going to be real interesting. And like it or lump it, and Mark Lawwell will confirm this if Paul Tidsdale's not sure, the pressure, fairly or otherwise, that you get as a recruitment guy at Celtic is through the roof at times. And I guess he'll be the first guy that gets called out if we don't come out of this window stronger than we went into it.
Yeah, I think, and you know, a lot of the time, rightly so, because as fans, we have seen them try to do the old bargain bucket, sign players at 2 million and then we sell them for 25. Now, you'll get a few of those, as we've shown. You know, the Matt O'Reillys of the world we buy for next to nothing and we sell them for crazy money. But we've also seen real success in the kind of 6 to 10 million bracket before. Jota was one of them. So I think we've probably learnt a lesson from that, and I think because we've got that safety of the money in the bank and we're competing and we're making more money by qualifying for competitions, I think the club we're on a different platform now, I think. And I think the more money you spend, it's not guaranteed, we know that, but if a player's worth more, then the chances are they are a better player. Not all the time, of course, I know that, but it should make the risk element not as high if we're in a different kind of bracket of player, if you like. Whereas before, you'd buy 3 or 4, you know, as we've said, 1, 2, 3, 4 million pound players. The risk of them working out is there. We know that. That's why they're that value. We've made it work on some occasions, but we've not made it work on others. And I think that's really where they've came in under the kind of scrutiny, if you like, is because we've just not got enough of the good ones. And that's all to do with results in the park. We've not progressed because as fans, we could all see it. Why are we not buying £8 million players and then selling them for 25 when we do what they do? You know, so yeah, I think the club's in a far better place. And you're right, this is the time that these guys look like they're in the money, but they should be working hard all year round in order to get the scouting network and get the players seen, feed it back to the manager and let the manager have a final say on which 2 or 3 targets do they want to pursue at a kind of deeper rate, if you want, or whatever you want to call it. So to me, it looks as if it's quite it looks very professional. It looks like everyone knows their role and it's pretty safe and steady. And all we can do is hope that they keep bringing us exciting signings like KT, like Jota, like whoever else is coming through the door. So we've had it right for a wee while now, but they need to keep it going. You can't sit still because, as we just seen, top players can leave whenever they want. Let's be honest. So we're in a good spot, I think.
Yeah, and it can all change very quick. We know that in football, that's how it goes. And, you know, all good, you know, one season doesn't necessarily translate to the next season. You've got to always be on the move. And James, it does seem that Brendan Rodgers was pivotal in bringing Paul Tidsdale to the club. And it seems that they're on the same page. But we'll see how that all plays out in the next week or so. In football, it's rare that you get a genuine opportunity to try before you buy. There is the loan to buy thing, which kind of does that to an extent. But we've tried KT and it was magic. And we've tried Jota and it was magic. And I think there's a lot to be said for, I mean, the numbers around it. You've punted both those guys for 20 million. You're getting Jota back for 10. You know, if that's the correct figure, you're getting KT back for wages. You know, it looks like there wouldn't even be a fee involved. That's ridiculous business. And you can't argue with Celtic in terms of how that's played out. And it's just the way football goes. You know, KT, had he stayed fit, could have gone on, flown higher than Arsenal. Jota's made a move, not quite for football reasons, that could have seen him ending up wherever. It just so happens that as very capable young players, and they're both still young enough. Jota's 27, KT's 26, something like that. They've got their best years ahead, potentially getting into their peak years. You potentially got them at the best possible time, and that could be really exciting for Celtic moving forward. James, I'll come to you for your final comments. It's been an interesting one. It's been really varied. There's been some magic comments, and I know there's been some back and forth and differences of opinions and folks getting upset and folks not getting upset. All is fine. It's just all part of it, you know. arguing and debating Celtic's it's kind of what we do on a weekly basis, and it's part of the fun of following Celtic. So we encourage that, and thanks to everyone that's joined and chipped in with the various comments. James, your final thoughts, though, as we start to wrap this one up?
Yeah, it's been another big week. We really do need to take a moment to look at what we've achieved this week. And looking back in that campaign where you've lost once in 7 games, I think Wednesday's going to be really, really tough now with Kyogo and Dyson not there. But first and foremost, got to get the job done tomorrow. Maybe a rest. A rest would be nice, actually. I think for everyone, a wee rest. Then go to Wednesday. And then you see where the draw takes you. A playoff game probably suits the bean counters at Celtic Park with an extra gate receipt to be counted. So we'll take it either way. But I'd love to just go and take the game to Villa, and really make a game of that. And, who knows, get ourselves over the line, get 3 points there. Brendan Rodgers does not want to get beaten that game, I can tell you that. So it's another exciting week, and being a Celtic fan, more to come.
Yeah, just so much going on at this moment in time. I'll ask you quickly before I come to Brydo for final thoughts. Somebody was suggesting we should open up the stadium to announce the signings of Jota and KT. Would you head along if they did?
Yep.
What's it before though?
I just think they're just such popular characters, and it's twofold. Of course, the most important thing is what a player brings in terms of his ability, but personality is big. You need to be a big personality to come to Celtic, and there's guys that have come to Celtic with all the talent, but just haven't managed the mindset and the personality required to beat this club. Those boys have been there, done that, and I don't think they've anything to prove on that front. Brydo, your own final thoughts for this one?
Yeah, good show, and always it's an exciting time for clubs. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Players leaving, players coming in. I do strongly think that we'll finish the window in a more exciting and stronger position than we started it. The acid test will be obviously what players we see come through the door and can they perform in the biggest level, which will be that playoff against whoever it will be. Because I don't think we can qualify automatically. I think that's kind of looks like it's going.
A lot of things need to go your way, but it's possible.
I mean, you know what, James? I love your optimism. I love that. And,
always.
Maybe we will, but let's think about the playoff and who that'll be. We don't know because God only knows about 15 folk we can play. So that'll be that acid test I'm talking about. These for the new players to come in and can they hit the ground running? We've seen them all before. The ones we spoke about. There'll be newer faces, I'm sure, and it'll be up to them to grab a jersey whenever they get the chance and light it up the same. If they do it the same amount in the same way that Kyogo did, we're in really, really good times and good hands. So they've done well with building the squad so far. I don't anticipate it being any different. So I think as Celtic fans, we should be really pretty content with what we're hearing, and we should be pretty happy with what we've done so far this season, with the exception of a couple of 3 or 4 games where 2 or 3 in particular that we've not done that well in. But I don't think we can ask for a great deal more.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think if any player comes in and has anything close to the impact that Kyogo's had, then you're in a pretty good place in terms of that. It was brilliant for Celtic, and as I said earlier on the piece, we absolutely wish him all the best and whatever the future holds for him. Final comment is from Bobby Wan Kenobi, who says, Tino's, we'll see how that plays out, drinking game has me several shots down this episode. That aside, great content as always. He's absolutely right. I'm aware of it myself, but it's just as what it is. I just say it. I'll try and mix it up for you for future episodes. Various new guys have joined us as well. Obviously, we opened out the chat for this one, but great to see the various new people have joined us. Various people have said they've now subscribed to the channel, and that's what it's all about. We always appreciate the support and the various comments. Some we'll agree with, some we don't, but it's been great to have everyone here with us for the episode. We're hoping to be back, so all going well, Celtic's game will go ahead against Dundee tomorrow. It's due to be a 3 o'clock kickoff at Celtic Park. I suppose we'll get updates on that in the morning. If so, I'm going to be at the game. Brydo, you're not going. James, you're not going on this occasion. But the hope is that we can do a post-match shortly after the final whistle. So if it goes ahead, that's the plan. And we'll also announce that on the socials as usual. So hopefully the various folks that have joined us for this one can also be along for tomorrow's show. If not, we're back at the top of next week for the weekly show as always. All that's left to be said is a big thank you to James and Brydo. Thanks to everyone who continues to listen to the Celtic Exchange podcast. Be sure to check out the CelticExchange.supercast.com for further ways you can support us this season. Subscribing there to the Celtic Exchange Plus includes ad-free listening, advanced access to the weekly show, and various other benefits. There is a link to that in the show notes. But in the meantime, thanks again. Enjoy your Friday night, everyone. We'll see you all again really soon.